We've got a lot going on at the house today. So I'm actually now moved my location to broadcasting live from my 12-year-old's bedroom because it's the one quiet place I could find where I could actually get an internet connection. So, well, guys, what I wanted to do today is I wanted to start off with our summer speaker series. This is something that we've hosted the last 2 years, which I think has been really beneficial. And my goal over the next to bring in some of the top talent in the country and just give you guys an opportunity to get a glimpse into their business, their personal life, like how they're running and doing what they're doing. We did this last summer. I'll also mention that next week is a holiday week, and I think a lot of people are actually traveling, including myself. So I do think we're going to take next week off with the agent development training. So we won't do it, but we will reconvene the following week and continue with this summer speaker series. So today's guest, and I had asked him to join us just because he is one of the top agents in our territory. And candidly, I have not gone one-on-one with Tyler just to really have a good conversation around how he runs his business and runs his practice. But Tyler Decker is a top agent and sales leader with the organization. He's done an excellent job of building his practice over the last 6 or 7 years. And in addition to being a top agent, he really has moved into a role where he's beginning to build a team in the greater Grand Rapids market. I appreciate you joining us today. Are you able to unmute?
Yep, you got me.
Yeah, I do. I can hear you now. So can you, am I still good as far as my audio is concerned?
Yeah, you're all right.
Perfect. Well, by just asking you a little bit about your health markets. I know you came into the business at a pretty young age, but I'd love for you to just share with us a little bit markets. How did you get, into the business, and what did that first year or so really look like for you?
Yeah, yep. So I was working, I was actually working at a car dealership, which just something that interested me. I was doing that for about 3 years, working through college, and then really liked the business. I liked interacting with people, but the hours were just kind of getting old, working every weekend and working nights, probably 2-3 days a week. So I just wanted to find something new. Gary actually is a family friend of mine. When I was really, really little, I was actually on his boat, taking little boat rides and stuff, which was kind of cool, but just a family friend. So got connected with him, just sat down with him, chatted about, the opportunity. I think at that time I was probably one of the youngest recruits that were coming in. And I guess Gary never really blinked an eye at it. I know Tom Sam was actually the TVP at the time, and I don't think he ever said this to my face, but it was one thing that he talked to Gary about. He's like, I don't know if Tyler's going to make it. He's just kind of young, and I think he's going to struggle with that, with people trusting him. I'm glad he didn't tell me, because it might have gotten in my head a little bit, but I just kind of went to work. And first year, it's always tough starting out right away. I mean, it was all new to me, but I think I had the privilege of, I was only 19, 20 years old, so I was still living at home. I didn't have a lot of pressure on me on that side of it. With trying to make ends meet and bills and stuff like that. But it ended up taking off pretty quickly for me. The Agent Accelerator program was something that I was able to hit every milestone there. So hitting those milestones, it gave me the encouragement from the team around me that, hey, Tyler, you're doing something right. It's working out. I remember being brought up, you're getting your awards and you're brought up in front of the whole team. And, to me, that's a little nerve-wracking, but just all the positive energy and encouragement from the team helped me out a lot. And then, yeah, from there, I mean, it just kept going up. So, I mean, it's been great ever since.
I'm really curious because there's a lot of new agents, like brand new agents, that are on the call today. Would you mind walking through some of the granular activities you did in the early days and weeks and months of your career to kind of help get things launched for you?
Yep. So one of the earliest things I remember right off the bat, Amy Blackwire was an assistant at that time. She helped me out with a lot of things, and she was one person that put that pie chart in front of us. And I don't think we're using that pie chart, but it's, the pie had just daily activities of what we should be doing. And I mean, there was probably 16, 17 different things on there. And I think one of the things she said to me was, don't don't think you have to do every single portion of this, this pie, right? I mean, there's so many different things that we can be doing and spending our time on, but she said, "Hey, Tyler, find a couple things that work for you that you like to do, and stay consistent at that." That's something that I try to get across with new agents too. Is one thing I struggled with starting out was I didn't stick at it for too long. I would try some type of marketing activity or some daily activity, and I would do it for maybe 3-4 months, and maybe it didn't get as much traction, and I would just give up on it. It takes a lot longer than that for something to track. So, my advice would be find a couple different marketing activities and just continue to do that make a goal of it for maybe 12 months or longer, stick with it. And that's when you're going to see that traction hit. So, the things that I spend a lot of time with is obviously internet leads. And I know, there might be some bad taste in people's mouth of internet leads. Honestly, guys, I think the way that you got to look at those is they're number one, they're crazy cheap, and 50% of that money is not even your money, right? Health Markets is giving us 50% of that to purchase these. You're going to have help from your sales leaders and stuff, and they're so quick to do. I'm looking at if I can buy 50, 60, 70 leads a week, it doesn't take me that long to get through those leads, sift through them, work through them in the course of a 2-week span. And it gives me a lot of other time to do other things. I just think that's the quickest way and easiest way to get in front of people. So I spend a lot of time doing that. But then not, again, putting all of our eggs in one basket, right? I mean, referral partners were huge for me. A little nerve-wracking starting out, just again, because I was so young, but don't let that, like, if you are a young agent, I mean, if you're in your 20s and you're thinking that you're meeting with financial advisors that have been in the business for 25, 30 years, and, you maybe get a little bit nervous meeting with them and sitting in their office because you think of them as like the big dogs, right? They went through all the same things you did. They know exactly where you're coming from. And I think it just speaks, they see that you have, that motivation to go meet with them. I think that's something big that they like to see. So, don't be scared of doing that, making those connections, and don't think, even if you have a referral partner that's maybe just like a landscaper or, somebody that you might think won't give you referrals, still meet with them, and it might turn out to be somebody that gives you a lot of referrals on a regular basis. So I guess don't try to judge them before you meet with them and think that, they're not going to give me people. There's lots of opportunities out there. So a lot of referral partners and things
So
like
what do
that.
those
Yeah, go ahead.
what do those referral partners look like to you today? Like who do you have as referral partners? How many do you have? How many leads do you bring in from them today?
Yep. So financial advisors are my biggest one. And, starting out, I guess maybe I kind of felt a little sleazy when I would meet with 6, 7, 8 different financial advisors because, when you meet with these people, you think, oh, I have to give them leads. I have to give them, referrals from my business. I kind of twisted that a little bit, and I came in and I said, hey, obviously you guys are pretty big referral partners for me. I just be upfront with them. I say, listen, like I don't have a lot of questions in regards to financial advising. If I do, I'll definitely be sure to send them your way. But I just want you to know, like, I work with other people as well. And I kind of do like a location based. If I meet with somebody that lives in Zealand, I got a couple guys in Zealand that I might refer them to, in just kind of different areas. So those are huge. Property and casualty agents, so your PNC, auto, home, they're getting a lot of questions about health insurance, and they don't want to touch that stuff with a 10-foot pole. So making those connections, I have a lot of those. Even mortgage lenders and real estate agents, they don't give me a ton, but there's a lot of life-changing events going on at that time. Maybe they just had a baby, they're moving into a bigger home. Mortgage lenders are talking a lot about finances and things like that. New budgets are coming into play. So just making those connections. And then recently, kind of like a gold mine is, Medicaid caseworkers. And there's those people I got connected with through a lead program, like a lead group that I'm a part of, and Chamber of Commerce and things like that, I think are great too. But, HR representatives, like, keep your eyes and ears open for people like that, because those are great referral partners to have.
So what are your day-to-day operations look like? Do you have a storefront? Are you virtual? Are you both? Like what percentage is done in person versus in a virtual setting?
Yep. So I do have an office right in Grandville. and I do 90% of my meetings face to face. Appointments are done face to face. I think it builds a relationship a little bit better. I think there's trust there. And it's to me, I'm almost more efficient doing it face to face than I am doing it virtually, especially via Zoom. Um, I do have obviously the option to do Zoom calls and phone appointments, and if I'm doing those, I usually do those in my home office here, where I'm at today. Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as my day to day mornings, I spend a lot of time at home just answering emails and stuff like that and getting a lot of that stuff done. And then, yeah, I'd say the majority, like the middle of my day, late morning into the later early afternoon, I'm spending time in the office and doing my phone or my appointments there. And then as far as my structure, as far as the week goes, I'm a pretty big stickler of, I have a pretty hard line of when I'm working and when I'm not working. And if I'm off the clock, like I'm pretty much off the clock. I'm not going to be doing any work activities, answering emails. So I try to make that pretty clear to my clients. And that's something I know every agent does it a little differently. And I think figure out what works best for you on that stuff. But if I get a call after 5:30 on a Thursday or a Wednesday and I'm not working, I personally am not going to answer the call. And I'm doing that because I'm trying to kind of train my clients that I'm not available 24/7. I will definitely get back to you, within the 24-hour period, if not earlier. But that's just kind of how I run my business. I don't want them to think that they can get me anytime. And honestly, if it's 5:30, 6 o'clock and I'm out, having dinner with my wife, or I'm out doing yard work, I'm not really prepared to answer questions to the extent that I will be if I'm sitting in front of my computer. So I want to make sure that when I do talk to them, I give them the time of the day, and they're getting the correct answers there. So to that point, as far as my daily structure, my week, I I plan on my late night appointments for Mondays and Tuesdays. Any other day, I'm not doing anything after 5 o'clock. That's just how I build my schedule. And it's easy. So when somebody calls me and says, hey, I worked till 5:36, when can I meet with you? Well, it's Monday or Tuesday. What day works good for you? Um, and I, that's something I started right away. That was a Gary tip to me when I started out, is build that calendar, build your schedule and stick to it. I think when you're a new agent, be flexible on it. Work Saturdays if you have to get your feet off the ground. But when you start getting consistent at it and you get steady commissions in, you don't want your clients to run your schedule. You want to run your schedule. I stick to that pretty tight. So
Yeah. Hey, I want to go back to leads real quick, because I know you have been someone who throughout your career, even as you have referrals coming in, you continue to have internet leads coming in. I know you had mentioned that, half of that money is yours, half of it is corporate. I also want to reiterate for brand new agents that there's a 50% rebate that you have where Health Markets credits back to your Lead Connect account 50% of the cost of any of the leads over the first 6 months. But you still are at a point in your career where you're bringing in 30, 40, 50 leads a week. Is that correct?
yeah, yep. And I do it just again because it's go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, are there, and you pull deals out of that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's some weeks where, I mean, you have your ups and downs, right, in the business. You're gonna have a really big week, and then the next week you spent so much time in your appointment setting that now maybe you got to start, or your appointments, you got to start getting into your appointment setting. And I'll have weeks where I maybe have 2, 3 appointments on the books, and then after I call my leads, I'll get another, 4 or 5 appointments just from my leads that I'm calling my internet leads. So I mean, there's weeks that I'll look at a week and I have nothing there. And if I didn't call the leads, I would have had probably a blank week. So I mean, there is definitely benefit to them. Again, they're cheap. It's very quick to do. I think, build out your script, right? I mean, and that's going to come with time. But you're going to get into a system where you're going to start saying the same things. You're going to get into a rhythm. And when you get somebody on the phone, you know exactly what to say. And that's going to help set that appointment and then gain the trust a little bit as well to get that sale. You got to look at them, right? They're not all good. So it's a volume thing. You buy, like you said, 40, 50, 60 a week. If you get 2, 3 appointments out of that and you sell 1 or 2 of them, I mean, you're profiting, you're getting your money back from the time you spent and the money you put in, right? So I mean, I find tremendous value in it.
What is your script? Do you mind sharing like what your script sounds like? What you actually say to them when you're on the phone with an internet lead that's coming in?
Yeah, I could do my best. I'll add a little bit here, but so if I get a lead coming in, and they answer, I'm really first thing I'm asking them is, hey, my name's Tyler Decker. Is this Jim Smith? I just want to make sure it's accurate if it's them. Yep, it is Jim. Well, hey, perfect, Jim. I just got a notice that you had some questions in regards to health insurance, looking for information. Just wanted to follow up on that. Is that accurate? Is that correct? Right? There are going to be some bad leads out there. And if he says, yeah, Tyler, it is correct. I am looking. Well, perfect. I'm more than happy to help you. What's your situation? What's going on? Yeah, obviously you want to pre-qualify them to make sure it's something that you can help them out with. And if he goes into the normal, yeah, hey, I'm looking to retire here soon, or I'm losing coverage here, changing jobs, new job doesn't offer coverage. I do need some help. My whole goal of that first call is just simply to set up the appointment. So I want to tell them what I do. So I'll say, well, perfect, Jim. I'm more than happy to help you. Number one here, I'm local here in Grandville. There's absolutely no cost to go through me. There's no fees or anything like that. I'm just here to help. And one of the most unique things is, we're contracted and appointed with a lot of the major carriers here in Michigan. So, we're not looking at just one or two options. I mean, we're sitting down, we're doing a lot of shopping for you and with you. Everyone's different though. It's hard for me to just throw a number out there for you. There's a couple things that we got to plug in. There's a few things that we got to go over to make sure we're showing you accurate info. The policies that are available in your area are accurate, what your price is going to be. So because of that, best thing for us to do is just set up an appointment together. I can do that via phone. I can do it face to face in my office, but that's just the most efficient way. Do you have any certain days that are good for you? That was probably a very quick version of it, but again, sole purpose of that first call is just to set that appointment. Again, pre-qualify them, figure out if you can help them. Tell them what you do. I'm local. My services are free. We're able to look at multiple options. We're not limited on that. What time works best for you to set up a call, right? Everyone's different, things like that. So stay away from those yes or no questions, right? Don't ask them, hey, I got time Wednesday at noon. Does that work for you? I mean, a really easy answer is no, right? I mean, no, it doesn't work, or yes, it does, whatever. Ask them, what's your schedule like? Do you have any certain days that are a little more flexible? You prefer a phone? You prefer face to face? I like to push face to face. Let me know what works best for you, type of thing.
Yeah. So you make all of your own outbound calls. You don't have an assistant that's making outbound calls on your behalf today, correct?
Right. Yep. I do make all my outbounds, text messages, all that. I do on my own end. When I get a lead in, might be a little different from some agents too, but I try to call them first before I text them, just because I think the chances of me getting them, as a sale or as an appointment, is if I can get them on the phone first versus a text. Text is just more passive and they can answer at any time. I'd like to get them on the phone if I can first. But yeah, I do them all myself.
Yeah. How many dials a week do you think you're making at this point in your career?
If I'm getting 40, 50 a week, one lead comes in, I'm going to call that lead 4 or 5 times at a minimum in the course of 2 weeks. Now, if I'm getting leads that are bad, I'm closing them out. If I'm getting blocked, I'm going to close them out too. So I would say at that time, I mean, out of that 50, maybe 25 of them are good that I work in the course of 2 weeks, and I'm calling each of those 4 times and shooting texts out. So you're talking maybe 100, 150 on a weekly.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to be. I think new agents getting started probably need to be closer to 250 or 300 a week.
Yep.
But once you've got things rolling and you've got higher quality leads and referrals that you're working, that number can certainly drop down a little bit. So talking about referrals, do you track referrals as they come in and how many you get? Is that something that you track, or is it not something that you track? I don't know.
I track it a little bit, probably not to the extent of what some other people do. It's just probably bandwidth for me, is I don't have the time on my hands to keep that, numbers so accurate. But I mean, I definitely do track them when I get a lead from a financial advisor or one of my referral partners. I mean, I'm not tallying up, but I'm writing that down, so I make sure to send them a thank you card. I would say, lately I've been getting a lot more referrals from, just clients that I've helped in the past. I mean, you're talking how many people are retiring right now and, losing their employer benefits, and they're bridging the gap to Medicare. I mean, I'd say right now that's like 40% of my business. And those
Right.
guys, they have a ton of friends right now, right? So, um, but yeah, as far as referral partners go, I try to track that as best as I can.
What about advertising? I know you've done some things to advertise or market your practice. Do you want to share with maybe where you've seen some successes on any?
Yeah, for sure. The big ticket items, it's they're great, but they're definitely not like, to me, I don't think they're the best advertising you can do. I think just getting out into your local market, I think doing events, if you can get, your hands on some events. I've had a lot of success with golf outings, sponsoring a hole, do the highest one. I think it's like $500 to do the highest hole sponsor. And then have some take ones there. Like some of them will allow you to set up a table there, and you can have some like take one stuff there too. But if not, like my buddy has one that he does for his brother, and I do the full sponsorship, and then I'll have like a whole bunch of koozies for them to just grab when they get to that hole. Stuff like that I think is great. The little advertisements I think go a long way, like I said, versus the big ticket ones. So like ink pens, every time you meet with somebody, like give them an ink pen. If they don't take it, just say, no, please take this ink pen. I got too many of them. Obviously magnet business cards are huge. So what I'll do with that is every client that I help out, I'm going to send them a handwritten thank you, and I'm going to put two business cards in there. One's magnet and one is just a paper one. Because they're probably going to throw the paper one out and they're going to throw the magnet one on their fridge, right? So those type of advertisements I found a lot of success with. When you start establishing yourself and you start getting some, your lead account starts to grow. I mean, you're going to have opportunities to do billboards. So I do a billboard, I do a couple TV ads. Those are great things to gain traction, but you can't look at that advertisement as, am I getting, dollar for dollar what I'm putting into it? It is so hard to track that, and you probably aren't. But it's just the fact that, somebody saw you driving down the highway, they turn on the TV at night and they saw you on TV, they got your business card or they got a letter from you, they see your ink pen. I mean, they're going to see you multiple different places, and that's just going to gain their trust even more and track for you.
I agree. That whole layering effect is, I think, where marketing happens and really works. It's not one silver, it's multiple ways that you're, engaging with them. So
Yeah.
mental salespeople, not only in the territory, but in the country. And so I would love to just hear a little bit more about your philosophy about why you think supplemental insurance is so important, how you position it with the customers that you serve, and maybe even a little bit more about like what products do you sell the most of? Just like I'd like to spend a little time on that, because I think most people on this call could benefit from better understanding how you're doing what you're doing from a supplemental sales perspective.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, I gotta thank Steve. Obviously, Steve was a huge help when I started out doing Steve Cavagila University, right? So that got my brain thinking, and I followed it pretty close to what Steve did too. I maybe tweaked it over the years. When I sit down with a client, obviously we're looking at their major medical, and you're going to look at maybe a bronze HSA and a silver. Maybe I don't ever look at any golds. They don't make any sense to me. And you obviously you're going to walk them through like, hey, here's your benefits of this plan, but you got some higher deductibles. I really position my supplemental first and foremost. I just want to show them of how it can protect from their direct costs. How is this going to compensate for my higher deductible? And why we're doing that. I want to focus on that first, because that's easy enough for them to be like, oh, that makes sense. I got a $9,000 bill here. You're going to give me, 15 grand if I go to the ER, I'm overnight for an injury. I don't have to pay the 9 grand. That's very easy and simple for them to track. So I like to start there, and I focus a lot on that. And then, after you kind of explain that, you can kind of build in the indirect costs of, hey, obviously we want to protect from the 9,400, but there's going to be some indirect costs if you're off of work for a while, bills don't stop, you might have to get treatment elsewhere, you got travel expenses. There's a little cushion there for us to help compensate for that. But personally, for me, like I'm really pushing on this is designed to really compensate for that higher deductible. So when I do that, I'm building in a low bronze, a bronze HSA, and a silver. My supplemental package is the same on every plan because really their risk is the same. If I look at a silver versus a bronze, their max out of pocket's the same. I focus on 3 different things, and I just things that come in 3 are a little more appealing, right? So we look at, I tell them, guys, my goal is to, protect you financially from medical bills today, right? Major medical is going to do a great job. We got some risk there. We got some higher deductibles. This is where the supplemental can come into play to compensate for that. And guys, I'm looking at really 3 of them, just for the fact that I'm just thinking of, what are the most common things that can happen to someone that's going to make them hit their deductible? Like I'll ask them that question, and they might answer, and I'll say, yeah, you're right. You got ER number 1, pretty common. If you're overnight in the hospital, you're paying towards your deductible. You're going to hit that 94 pretty quick. And then last one, guys, I would say would be chronic illness, right? Cancer, heart attack, stroke. Now I'll tell them, be upfront with them. I'll say, guys, there's definitely more things that can happen that are going to make you hit that. My goal is I'm just trying to knock off as many as I can, and I'm going to stick to these 3. So I'll do accident wise, and I'm going to do a minimum of 15 to 20,000. I'm going to do a hospital-wise plan, and I just do it very, just simple. I'm just doing the base hospital-wise of $750, $850, $1,000 per day, just days 1 through 3. I do that for premium sake. That hospital-wise plan has a lot of cool options on there, and I think they're beneficial. It just starts to tick up the premium if we start adding in MRI stuff and outpatient stuff and things like that. I'm not saying those are bad things. It just starts to tick up the premium. So I keep it real basic on that. And then I'll do a chronic illness, and I do the cancer wise one, adding the heart attack and stroke lump sum on there. And when I do that one, I normally start out anywhere from 20 to 30,000, knowing that they could use more. I don't want to oversell them. And like I said, my initial conversation with them is to protect from their deductible. I'm going to bring in that, indirect stuff later, but my first conversation is just that direct cost. So I'm going to do like 20, 25, 30 just to protect them from that, $20,000 out of pocket. And then dental and vision, I try not to spend a lot of time on that. For some reason, every client wants it and they think it's the best thing ever. So I'm going to sell it. Absolutely. I try to get through that pretty quick. So does that help a little bit, or does that answer the question?
And from looking at your numbers, Tyler, you sell supplemental insurance on virtually every health insurance application that you submit, correct?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, at that, I kind of look at it as I'm not really getting a sale if I don't. I mean, some states don't get paid anything for health insurance. We're, blessed to be able to get a compensation for it. But I mean, that's kind of the way that I look at it.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with driver on income as well. So I appreciate. So I'm interested to talk a little bit through your post-sale process. So once you make a sale, what does it look like, and what do you do from that point forward?
Yep. So I have a little checklist that I come up with just to make sure I'm organized, right? I can't remember everything in a day, so I got a lot of checklist stuff that I go through. After post sale, they're gonna get their enrollment confirmation. I'm shooting them out, electronic receipts, acknowledgement forms. Like I'm sending all that out to them, so they're getting all that communication from me. Obviously, they're going to get set up on our automated email systems, which are fantastic. And I kind of tailor those a little bit to how I like stuff to go out to them. As far as like activities that I do on my end, so after the post sale, I'm going to write a thank you card, again, handwritten, and I'm going to send that out probably within, I'd say 30 days or so, at least, to get that thank you card sent out. purpose of that is just, again, thanking them for the business, telling them that I'm looking for more clients. Like, I'm asking for referrals if they know of anybody else. So I'm shooting that out to them with some business cards in there. Um, I do also like a follow-up in about 60 days. My follow-up is it's pretty quick. So I'm very open as far as like if they need to call me, like I tell them, please call me with anything. Like don't call the carrier, call me first. I will either direct you on where to go or I'll answer your question right then and there. And it's just pretty quick for me to do that stuff. Um, my post-sale follow-up is going to be more of like a 60-day email. And on that email, I'm just simply saying like, hey, is there anything I can help you out with? Have you had any issues? Payments are coming out, everything looks active on our end, whatever. But then I'm in that email, I'm again reiterating the referral thing. And I'm also asking for a Google review. And the Google review, I keep it very like, I want to make it as easy as possible for them to leave me a Google review. So I have the link right there. It's a really small link. They can click on the link. It goes right to my page, right to be able to click a 5-star. And then I'll even like include little captions of just examples of what to say. Hey, if they want to write their own, write their own. But like, hey, just say something like, Tyler was great to work with, made things super simple, understandable. It's like stuff like that. And I'm throwing that in that 60-day email. After the fact, right, we start getting into open enrollment, we start getting into getting close to all the new plans coming out and stuff. I'm sending out a couple different letters to each client that I'll physically mail them. They're obviously getting a lot of emails, and I write a couple emails on my own that are compliant approved that I send out maybe 2-3 of those type of emails a good 2 months before open enrollment starts, just to give them heads up on what to expect. And I'm doing that because I'm really trying to minimize all those questions happening, in November. Like I don't want to focus a lot of time on that. I want to really be focusing on acquiring new clients and just making sure that my current clients are all set up and ready to go. So I think there's obviously after a client that I work with maybe February and March, I'm talking to them within 60, 90 days. After that, they're just getting, automated emails and just knowing that I'm always available for help. And when we get closer to open enrollment, they're getting a lot more communication from me at that point.
So from a third-party technology perspective, do you have any additional third-party tools that you use outside of the Health Market Suite?
I do not. I'm maybe a little bit unique on that. I do handle a lot of it just internally, just using Google, Google Docs, Google Drive. I do schedule emails. That's helpful. So I can have like a morning where I'm not super busy and I can schedule a whole bunch of emails to go out. I do that with my 60, 90-day follow-up email. I just schedule them out, so it's pretty quick. I use our own CRM. I think it's a fantastic CRM. I do have a spreadsheet that I use that just keeps me maybe a little bit organized, but that and just my own internal filing system. It works for me. Like, I'm fairly organized on that stuff. I probably use unique ways of finding out what policies are actually active for people and what are not. And I kind of look at book of businesses and stuff like that too. But no, I pretty much run with what they give me.
So I know our practices are always evolving as we move deeper and deeper into successes that we have. Do you have anything that you're changing in your practice this year, or modifications that you're making, or things that you're going to be doing differently this year, for any number of reasons?
I think I tweaked a couple things last year as far as like, follow-ups for enrollment and open enrollment. ANOC meetings are something that are interesting to me. I'd like to maybe start doing something like that, maybe in a virtual setting. I think just front and foremost for me is just, I think I need to find somebody to do some of that other stuff. So looking for an assistant or a sub agent to be able to maybe take a little bit off of my plate on that front.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's valuable. So you had the opportunity to go to the Amalfi Coast in Italy with us, and it was fun spending time with you and Lexi there. I think that was a great trip. I don't know if maybe you've shared with Gary's team, but I don't think you've shared with our Northern Indiana team any thoughts or takeaways that you have from the trip itself. Do you have anything you'd like to share around that?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say, guys, I mean, make that like I would say if that's not on your goal list, I mean, put that up on the top to get to a celebration, whether it's in the States or if it is a super trip. You learn so much there and you make so many different connections. I mean, you look at how different in our agency people do their business. Now think of that, over the country. I mean, everybody's doing stuff differently. So you're always going to get, bits and pieces from people. I mean, I've gotten lots of even people sending me Google Drives of how they organize their business and things like that. That'll just shoot that to me that I just met, one time ever. So, um, it's such a cool experience. You learn so much there. You make such great connections. I mean, I think it's got to be the number one goal for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know you're working with training and observing other agents. I wonder if there's one or two things that you believe most agents could do to grow their business that you're, from your vantage point and having the experience that you do, for a lot of these new agents who are struggling or they're struggling to get things rolling, do you have any advice for folks that are in that situation? Maybe a couple of thoughts?
Yeah, kind of probably what I said a little bit earlier. You're just going to spend a ton of time marketing right now. You're new, you're not going to spend that much time doing appointments. So you want to stay very consistent at the marketing activities that you pick, right? And pick a few of them and run with it. And if funds are, an issue, I mean, obviously, our sales leaders and we're happy to invest in you if you're putting the effort into it. So I would say stay very consistent at that. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you do, you stick at it, you're going to see you're going to see your business just take off that, year two in. It's just going to take off more than what you've expected.
So, I don't want to get too in depth on this because I think it's kind of personal information, but I know I've had the opportunity to watch what your income has done over, well, since you started with the organization. And I think sometimes the income increases that we see in this business and within this organization are mind-boggling. And so I didn't know if there's any data points or anything you can share. And more importantly, like not only the data of like where has your income come from and gone to, but how has that changed your life? What have you been able to do differently because of that?
The not having to worry about bills coming in and not having to have to worry about thinking that I can't purchase something. I pretty much can just go buy anything right now that I'd like to. The grocery bills and stuff. I used to be starting out, I was like, oh, man, I feel like I shouldn't get that or that. I should just be really lean. And, now it's just like we just pick up everything that we'd like. So that's kind of nice. I would say, the biggest thing for me was just seeing a lot of my friends that, I mean, they're doing very well. Like I got a couple, friends that are realtors that are one of the top realtors in the state. And I have a couple guys that have their own businesses as far as masonry and like in construction and things like that. And, you see what their increases are year over year. And it's like 5-6% on the high end. Right. Personally, I've never had an increase in my income lower than I think 25%. I think this past year was close to 30. And I'm 6-7 years in, and, you talk about 30% of a big number it's a big increase, right? And I would have never thought of being in that situation at all. So the first year is, it's always tough, right? You're thinking, oh man, I'm doing so much work for such a little amount. Second year, you're kind of feeling like that too. And then you start getting into third, fourth, and fifth year, and you're almost, for the work that you're putting, you're still working really hard, but you're getting an income for, you feel like you're making more than what you're putting in. You know what I mean? I think Tony says that a lot too.
Yep. Well, and it's been really rewarding for me to just watch your progression. I mean, you've got a boat that you guys get to enjoy on Lake Michigan. I've watched you move into a new home and remodel that. I think you bought an Airbnb up in northern Michigan somewhere and been able to turn that into a revenue generating property. It's just been really, really stellar to watch what you've done, Tyler. I think you've done
Yeah.
some incredible things. And you know, I told you in Italy, but you and Derek, I'm so happy and proud to have you guys as a part of the leadership team. I know you're just getting things started, but I think you're going to be a tremendous leader in this organization. And you know, you've already demonstrated the work ethic and the ability to you know, train and mentor people along the way. So, well, do you have any final thoughts as we kind of wrap up today's session? Anything else you'd like to share with specifically the new agents? I mean, this is really focused on helping new agents in whatever way we can. So, are there any final thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I would say just stick at it. And like I said, I know I said it 3, 4 times already, but it's tough at the beginning. It really is. Stay consistent at it. Do things that make you uncomfortable. I'm not a big person that likes to get in front of people and speak. I had a really tough time, doing coffee meetings with financial advisors and stuff, but I just did it. I might have bombed a couple. I probably made myself look like a fool, but hey, I still made it, right? It doesn't matter. They're still giving me referrals, so they don't care as much as you think they care, right? So I would just stick at it, and it'll come. It really will. And that's one of the things I'm so appreciative about the role that I'm in now is I did see what this business did for me, and I mean, I can see the trajectory of where it can go, which is just, it's one of the coolest things ever. And I'm looking at stuff that I never thought I would be able to do, as purchasing a second home, and, being able to get the boat that I wanted to retire in, that I could get when I'm 30. Like, that's going to be really cool. And I think just sharing that story with new agents, and now my goal is just to be able to help you get to those points, right? And just kind of tell you what I did, and well, hope and pray for the best that you can get there too. So I think it's super pumped. I'm super pumped about it, and it's very exciting.
Yep. Well, you're a rock star, my friend. I'm really thankful to be in business with you and next to you, and not only a good business partner, but become a close friend of Chris and of mine. So, keep on rocking. If there's anything I can do to support you, don't ever hesitate to reach out. Guys, I appreciate Tyler joining us today. I'm going to continue this. As I mentioned early in the call, and I'm sorry for some of the technology issues we had. But as I mentioned, we are going to take next week off with the holiday week. I think a lot of people are traveling. I know I'm out of town. And so I'd say enjoy your holiday. We come back from the holiday and things are going to start getting crazy. We've got to get our AHIP done. We're going to have FFM certifications. We're going to have carrier certifications. Gary and I are already lining up meetings with carriers for August and September. So we're going to be heavy meetings through August and September to get everybody prepared for the AEP, OEP season. I do think this is going to be one of the most volatile annual enrollment seasons that we've seen on the Medicare side. And I think that volatility creates an enormous amount of opportunity for us, but it's also going to be a lot of work. And we're going to have to really engage deeply with the clients that we serve this fall. So I promise to do everything I can to help you get ready for that. So we'll wrap up today's call. I will be, I did record this, so I'm going to be sending these out in a recorded version so you guys can listen back to Tyler's comments. Tyler, thanks again for being here, buddy. I appreciate you. For the rest of you, I hope you all have a great week, a great holiday week next week. Enjoy your friends and family. Hopefully you can relax a little bit before we kick things into overdrive for the second half of the year. So appreciate you all being here today. Take care. Have a great week. See ya.